new bill that's 3 years in the making. I'm not sure it's going to be quicker to come up with a new process, but can you tell me what I find interesting, actually, so thank you for this document, and I did attend the Birdwatch Ireland briefing on the IBAs previously, and I had a look at the DMAP because what we need to know is that DMAP process is really robust, because if you're going to build on it and use it as the model for the MPAs, we need to know that that's really robust. And I'm surprised, I suppose, at the difference between the DMAPs that you produce, the locations, and actually what was produced using the sensitivity mapping from Birdwatch Ireland. And can you explain the difference in those geographical areas? I would imagine that the closer you go to shore, the more sensitivity it is for birds, but I think is it DMAP A looks quite close to shore, so I'm just wondering what bird data was used in the development of that particular DMAP.
Thanks, Deputy. I suppose there's a couple of pieces in that question. Specifically, I think the latter part relates to the process around the South Coast DMAP, and which I can speak to, but I suppose maybe to come back to the intent around the new legislative approach was exactly to build on the existing DMAP process that's established already by legislation in the Maritime Area Planning Act, and to use that and adapt that to deliver marine protection through the designated Maritime Area Plan process. Just to be clear that it is, although it's an amendment proposed to the existing legislation, it is a substantial amendment. It's not a kind of tweaks around the edges. There's quite a bit of detailed piece in that. So just I think it's important to reassure members as well that there won't be any dilution or diminution of the importance applied to the marine protected area process as a result of that amending legislation. It is just simply to use the vehicle that is already there and to maximise, I suppose, the architecture that's already in place for marine governance rather than introducing a third layer of complexity to it. So while we're drafting that legislation, we are absolutely committed to making sure that it is participatory and inclusive, as the DMAP process already is. In terms of the South Coast DMAP, that is the only DMAP that lives and breathes at the moment, although another one is in gestation. That South Coast DMAP was for a specific purpose for offshore renewable energy. It's important to state that a DMAP proposal for an MPA will be specific to deliver an MPA. It will be a DMAP proposal to deliver a marine protected area in accordance with that particular proposal. So it will be a separate process to deliver MPAs just using the designated Maritime Area Plan architecture for it. So it's not a case that there'll be an overlap or there'll be combined processes to deliver ORE and MPAs in one. There'll be separate proposals, separate stakeholder engagement, separate processes to deliver that. So I think that's important to say that there'll be quite.
I suppose I'm looking at the clock ticking down, so apologies. But I suppose, and I understand that. I suppose we've heard from the fishers that they're worried about the process for DMAPs. That was, and that they didn't really represent a co-design system. And then when I look at this map, it just seems to me that like this entirety of the area is being deemed as sensitive through the scientific modelling and evidence that's been collected, and yet there's 4 DMAPs or 4 areas. So I'm just wondering how can both of those be true? How can we have 4 areas that you state are okay for wind farms, and then we also have scientific evidence saying that actually they're very sensitive for bird populations, bird foraging, whatever, Yeah,
so I think I suppose we're speaking about the questions about the specific process undertaken during the South Coast DMAP, which I think is a question you're asking. So that was undertaken in accordance with a very detailed consultation, stakeholder engagement, and appropriate assessment and strategic environmental assessment, and environmental assessments as part of that. The best available data was used, and it went through that process. So I suppose the integrity of that South Coast DMAP was built on the participatory nature of the process. There was a proposal set out that was published. There was an accompanying public participation statement which included how stakeholder engagement would be taken into account, and the data piece around that. And all of that was worked through, I suppose, in a statutory way, including appropriate assessment and strategic environmental assessment.
I do want to thank you for that answer. I do want to bring Birdwatch in.